In a business like wrestling, one can feel immense pressure to fit a cookie cutter image. Today's guest has done the very opposite. She is a woman who wants to hold space for all those who feel like misfits in their own regard. A woman after my own heart. Ladies and gentlemen, my girl, Willow Nightingale. How is everything?
Pretty good. I am very excited for the holidays.
Good.
I've always been really close with my family, so all the family togetherness over the holidays is just very heartwarming.
Good. And where is home for you?
Long Island, New York. I actually just moved back, so I'm very close to my family now.
Oh, that's so nice. Where were you living previous?
I was living in Philly for 2 years.
Okay.
Which was nice. But
it's
the
not
reason, home. Yeah, the reason I moved out there kind of exploded, and then I was like, oh, well, I'm just going back home.
Good for you. Good for you. It's funny. I don't want to pry about your personal life or what imploded, but was it recently?
It was pretty recently. It was wrestling related.
Okay.
It was just oh, I'm going to take a chance on myself. And then life was not this time.
Hey, you know what? But wrestling and entertainment, it's all about risks. And as you know, I don't have to tell you, it doesn't matter how hard you work, how good you look, the stars have to align.
That is true.
And it just wasn't maybe your moment with that exact situation?
Yeah, I don't regret it at all.
Okay, good.
But I always feel oh, well, things happen in their own time. If
Yes.
it didn't work out with that, something else better is planned.
Absolutely. And you're home, so that's quite nice.
Yeah. I'm literally in my little sister's room right now.
Oh,
so.
Her ceiling, that's her ceiling or is that her
Yeah,
wall?
she painted it all herself. She's got groovy lights in here.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Is she your younger sister or your older sister?
She's my younger sister. She's 19. But I do have an older sister and an older brother.
Oh, wow. It's a big family.
Yeah. And my sister has 4 boys. So.
Holy moly. So Christmas is going to be a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's good, though, because, waking up Christmas morning without, little ones is, not the same.
I agree.
So it'll be nice to have them there.
Good. Well, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I want to fast forward to something I read, and obviously this is a wrestling podcast, but in the spirit of that, it's more about, taking the curtains back a little bit and exploring the human being, especially for women wrestlers, where I feel like there's not a lot of information on our wiki about who we are as human beings. But I read somewhere that you feel like you're holding space for a different type of women in the industry. You feel like you look different, you're a different shape, you have a different ethnicity, you feel like you're an ally or a part of the LGBT community. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you feel about you?
Absolutely. When I started watching wrestling, I was around 8 or 9 years old, and I instantly fell in love with it. Hence how I ended up becoming a wrestler.
Yes.
But I never felt like anyone looked just like me, or I'd see little bits of myself in this body or in that body. So when I started wrestling, it was definitely something that I did just for myself. I was like, well, this is my dream. I'm going to follow it. I didn't really have a lot of confidence in how far I could go. It was really just kind of something I was doing for fun. But then the more I started doing it and getting out around places, I started seeing that people appreciate someone who looks like me and identifies with all the things that I do identify with.
Yes.
And then kind of through performing and interacting with fans, I was like, oh, wow, this is so much bigger than just myself. And that's really what kind of made me be like, okay, cool. I'm all in on representation. I own this. I am all about it. I've never shied away from who I was. So I'm just going to wave that flag as loud as I can. I'm definitely bigger than most women wrestlers. I consider myself plus size. I am mixed ethnicity. So like there was a whole bunch of like confusion with my identity growing up outside of being in a spotlight, you know, just like, ow, where do I fall?
Right. So just within yourself, let alone how others might guess or perceive you.
Exactly. Yeah. I grew up in like a predominantly white neighborhood, and I think there were points of me where I was like, oh, my dad's white, like I'm white, and kids made it very apparent to me that like, oh, you're not, and I was like, oh, okay, but like
Kids are assholes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's okay. Like that's how we all learn. It's
True.
like, okay, sometimes you just have to like rip the Band-Aid off. Like this is life, kid.
Yeah.
I think without really having to fit into one place or another, whether that be in whatever kind of cliques there are that exist or whatever, really, I was able to kind of truly pick what I like throughout my whole life. It wasn't like, oh, I just like this because all the other kids that I hang out with like this. It was like, oh, well, this is what makes me happy. So I feel like even from a young age, when you're like, try to find who you are, which is hard, right? Like
Totally.
it's a lifelong journey figuring out who you are. But even from a young age, I had a pretty good idea of what I personally like truly liked for myself and not for other people, because of all the confusion.
And I think that's like, I feel like I'm not bringing the right words to it, but I feel like that's massive in terms of how we can identify with these people that we adore. Like, you know, for me, I'm of a different wrestling generation than you from when I started, but like I felt very much like you did, which is kind of, I don't know, seems silly now because I have blonde hair and I have big boobs and I have the tan and, you know, I fit into that 90s version of a female wrestler. But at the time when I started wrestling, I was very young. I was like 19. I didn't have breast implants. I got into it as a wrestler. There weren't many wrestlers back then. There was more, you know, models turned wrestlers. And I didn't feel like I fit into any one box. And I really struggled with that for years. And I struggled with that my entire career until I came back as a woman, as a mother, as a firefighter, and, you know, went through some pretty big traumas in my life where I'm like, okay, not only do I know who the fuck I am, I refuse to try to identify any which way. And, you know, I'm heteronormative, and you know what, I feel like the basic bitch of not fitting into boxes, but like
No, I think like you and like your generation of wrestlers, as you put it, like the women who are like, we're wrestlers first, like really laid the groundwork for women like me who also identifies like as a wrestler first, like for us to be able to do that. Like, thank you so much.
Oh, please don't. I'll cry. But wow, thank you. That is truly that means a lot. It really does, because change is hard, and being the voice behind the change in an industry that is predominantly male, in an industry that doesn't love change, like, you know, you really got to push, and it's so heavily political, especially in the bigger companies that, you know, have money or whatever. But I'm so happy to have a spirit like yours in wrestling and women like you, because I feel like, you know, it's really happening. You are being the authentic version of you, and people are identifying with it because you are the demographic. You are someone out there. Some little boy or girl can look up to you and be like, hey, mommy, that's just like me. Maybe I can do this one day.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's like a lovely, I don't want to say like side effect, but it is kind of like, just like, oh, I didn't expect for this to happen. This is lovely. Like on my journey of being a wrestler.
For sure. And you were just being you, but that's what makes it more beautiful, is like, that's just who you are. And yeah, it's great. And you recently, just like within the past few months, we saw you on AEW. You want to tell me about that experience? Good, bad, ugly? You can be PC. I don't care.
I think more or less it's been going good.
Okay.
It's definitely, I've done extra work for WWE before, but I've never had the opportunity to do like a match with them or anything like that. So, when I went in and did work with AEW, it was very interesting, one, to kind of see the backstage, like, this is how big the production is. Like, it's so different from the indies, just the level of, like, thought that goes into every single piece of detail. Oop, there's my nephew being very loud.
That's okay. Usually my son is in bed now, but, like, he comes out a few times to be like, mommy, something. So it's quite all right.
But you get to see, like, the production on every single level, like, how much thought is put into every single thing. From, like, the countdown of, like, this is how long an entrance needs to be. Like, every single thing is thought out. So that's very
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And recently I was able to wrestle in front of, like, I have no idea how many people it was, but it was certainly, like, the biggest crowd I've ever been in.
Yay!
And I've really come to learn that, like, at the end of the day, no matter how, like, whatever the scale is, wrestling is wrestling is wrestling. Yep. You get in there, there are 4 sides, it's a square, you've done this before, you know what you're doing, and, like, once you're in there, like, all the nerves fly away. Yeah. But I've had great experiences. I think there are great people there. Yeah, just... No tea or shade. Yeah.
You know what? I totally didn't expect that. I just meant, like, are you enjoying it? Is it what
no, I didn't think that's what you expected. I mean, like, it's all positive, I
no
think.
Shade. No, in lieu of, like, really getting to know you, wrestling, not wrestling, is there anything that the fans would want to know about you that they might not have an opportunity to know without you saying, like, a weird phobia or a hobby or a superstition or anything about you?
I really hate driving over bridges.
I do.
Yeah. And
I do.
It, like, wasn't, like, a super big issue until I started wrestling, because, like, how often am I really traveling over a bridge?
True.
But for wrestling, you travel, like, all the time. So I'm, like, constantly just driving over bridges. I hate it.
What is your fear? Is it the height? Is it...
Well, I actually had a dream when I was in high school that I used to be in chorus, like, choir, when I was in high school. Okay. So we were on a field trip for choir, and, we were all singing along, everyone's having a great time, and then, like, we were driving over a bridge, and it just, like, collapsed under us. Oh, no. I remember this one girl was singing, and then, like, the transition from, like, a song to, like, a scream, and that has been, like, stuck in my head. And then I woke up, and I just was, like, banging my head on my nightstand, like, I was falling. I was like, oh, that's probably it, but, like, irrationally, I'm still like, oh. So, I'm not afraid of heights. Like, airplanes I'm fine with. Like, jumping off a top rope, I'm fine.
I know.
I don't know. It's maybe just, like, so much water everywhere.
I have the same irrational fear. And, like, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, is this some crazy, like, past life regression shit? Like, is this how, did one of my lives end like this?
I've also had that thought, like, for sure.
Yeah. Ooh, are you into any of the woo-woo stuff that I enjoy, or...
I see you're wearing, like, crystal earrings, and
yes, girl.
Dig them. Yeah, I am. I used to, when I first started wrestling, I used to have crystals that I would put in my bra.
You were a bra crystal girl.
Yeah. And then, like, things would happen, like, I would change after my match. They'd, like, fall out and break. Or, like, they would just, so, like, that happened too many times, and I was like, I know what I'm doing. I'm okay. So I just leave them in my bag now.
Good.
But I used
safer,
to like
less
having
expensive.
them on my being. Yes, exactly. But I really liked having them on my being.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I just feel like there is, like, again, some people are like, oh, well, it only works, like, if you think about it, or, like, it's all made up. But, like, yes, if for whatever reason this makes me and my brain feel more empowered or whatever, then why are you going to get in the way of it? I think there's vibrations in everything. So what if it's not hurting you? What's the problem?
It's just energy. I think that's, like, the beautiful thing that's really come out of COVID is people really figuring out, like, spirituality through doing, like, inner work. And it doesn't have to be crystals and witchcraft and all that other stuff. But like you said, it's like people really putting their energy first, which is something that we didn't even have time for before, a lot of us.
I definitely think, like, as much as 2020 and the pandemic was awful, like, obviously, like, terrible.
For sure.
I think for a lot of people, it did hit a pause button that kind of, like, forced us to reflect, not just on ourselves, but, like, on everything around us, like, the structures of the world that we live in, how we're living our life. So, I wouldn't say it was, like, the worst year of my life, personally, but...
Same preface, terrible, people died, don't wish it on anyone. I'm a first responder. It's not fun to work in. However, the hard reset, the time by myself, the time that I like couldn't go, like there was so many positives to this hard reset. Like I'm with you. I didn't have the worst year of my life. Actually, like things weren't that different. I'm like an introvert, so.
Well, again, if you're saying you're first responder and you're like working through it, I imagine. I mean, except for like again the scale of everything, things weren't too different. But again, that's when I was in Philly. I was far away from my family and everything, so like there was like a big hit with that. But it's all good. It's all good.
It's good. You're good. And you said, your life kind of imploded when you were in Philly in terms of wrestling, but. Girl, I'm seeing you everywhere. Like, I'm really, like, I'd been following you to, a certain degree as you had started, but, like, I'm seeing you everywhere now. So whatever you left back there, I think it was a good thing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's cool. Somebody recently asked me, like, how do you feel, like, how did you find success in the pandemic? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know what, like, the secret was. Exactly. It was just like, I'd been doing all the stuff I always had been, and it just kind of eventually caught up, I guess. Like,
it's wonderful.
Hard work paid off.
Yeah. So you said you were in chorus in high school. What were your loves and dreams in high school? Like, did you always know you were going to be a wrestler?
So I always wanted to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
But around high school, like, I kind of fell out of it. I wasn't really watching it as much. I would tune in from time to time, but I wasn't, like, as all in on it as I was as a kid. Mm-hmm. That came back around in college, and that's when I was like, okay, I have to like follow this dream. I actually recently found out that like my uncle, when I was a baby, was like, she's gonna be a wrestler. That one's a wrestler.
No way.
Yeah. And like a lot of people in my family, like my grandfathers and stuff, like were huge wrestling fans. I never knew this because my parents don't really watch wrestling. So it wasn't like around really.
Okay. Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, so like all these other people ahead of me knew they had the feeling and the sense ahead of me.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So it's just destiny.
I bet. So what do your siblings think of Willow Nightingale, the wrestler?
I mean, I've never really asked them like what their feelings are on it. But they haven't been like starkly against it.
Okay, good.
So I think they're all in support. I think like I know my brother has definitely used me and like pictures of me and like this is my sister to like pick up chicks.
I thought you were going somewhere sweet.
Oh, no.
He's used me for leverage for girls.
Yeah, I'd be like as like a talking point, like a way to start conversation. And I was like, you know what? If I'm helping you out, that's great. And I know like my little sister thinks it's cool. She's also kind of like a performer-y person. So she's she relates to it in a lot of ways. And I think my older sister's really supportive. Sometimes it's like hard to really have those one-on-ones because she is a mother of 4. So.
Yep, that's fair. She's busy. She's got some shit to do.
Yeah, very much so.
Now, okay, so I like I said, I try to stay away from like the repetitive wrestling questions, like how did you find wrestling, and because I feel like that information's out there. But specifically, is there a wrestling move that you hate giving or you hate taking or both?
I hate taking choke slams.
Because it's a stiff bump or?
It's like, I have low center of gravity, heavy bottom girl. Yeah. So like, I feel like it just never looks good. because it's like picking me up. You're like, oh my God. Like, oh. And I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so heavy down here. I know.
Oh my God.
And then it's like, once you're up in the air, it just like sucks so bad to take that bump.
Yeah.
And I just always feel like oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even, like, your move looked terrible on me. So
Oh.
you know.
That's, you know what? That's fair.
Yeah.
We all have like a handful of moves that we're like, nah, save that for somebody else.
Yeah,
Any move that you
like
really like taking?
I like basing people for like head scissors or like lucha stuff.
Cool.
I definitely think like basing is a strength.
Good.
So anytime I can show it off or like help someone else show off an ability that they don't always have an adequate base for, I'm like, yeah, I got you. So I love that.
Girl, that is good. That is so good because there's always a shortage of women that can be a base. And that we need more. We need more. So that makes me very happy.
Yeah, it's like, you know, that lucha feels like dancing.
Yes.
So I'm like, this is fun. I can't do the flying stuff. So I'm like, oh, heck yeah.
I'm very looking forward to hopefully working together one day then.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be so cool.
Is there anyone you like aspire to be like or inspires you outside of wrestling who you really identify with?
There are like a bunch of people that I take little bits of inspiration from. Off the top of my head, for whatever reason, I think of Alana from Broad City, which is like, I don't know if you're familiar with that show, which it's like, she's kind of a slacker and she's kind of like flaky, so it doesn't seem great, but she has this perpetual like enthusiasm and like vivaciousness that like really resonates with me. So I kind of like pull from that.
I love that.
And that's just like the first one that came to mind for some reason. So I'll go with Alana Glazer.
I like that. Okay. Now, did you have purple hair pre-wrestling or was this like a wrestling choice?
I have had purple hair before wrestling. But when I started wrestling, I just kind of like had my natural hair color. Really, it was over the past like 2 years or so. I was like, I need to do something different. So why not? I went blonde for like a hot minute.
Yep.
Because I was like, that's cool. And it just wasn't me.
Fair.
So I was like, all right, let's get bright. Let's get bold. And that's when the purple came into my life.
I love the purple.
Thank you. Like every now and then I think of changing it, but like, I don't know. It's so good.
You could always do variations of it too if you got bored.
Yeah.
I know what it's like though. I'm like that all the time. I'm like, I need to like cut my hair. I need to color my hair. I need to change something. And then as soon as I do it, I was like, but my hair was nice.
I know, like things were working great before. Why?
So are you still side hustling in contraband in connection with wrestling?
So I was a piercer, like a body piercer.
Interesting.
Pretty much parallel, like, with my wrestling career. Because when I first started wrestling, I was working at a movie theater, and then they were like, oh, you can't have weekends off. This is a movie theater.
Fair.
So I was like, I'll just find another job. And I walked into a tattoo shop, said, hey, do you guys need help? I was kind of doing shop help kind of stuff, just sweeping, taking phone calls and that kind of stuff. And then they were like, you want to learn how to pierce? And I was like, hell yeah, I do.
That's awesome.
So I had been doing that for like years. But recently I was just like very overwhelming the amount of responsibility I was getting from the tattoo shop and managing wrestling. So I was like, I don't think I could do this anymore. So I quit. Which is, like, very scary.
I bet. Yeah, because that's your safety net, right?
Yeah. But, you know, I ended on good terms. And the door is always open for me to go back if I need to.
Good.
But a piece of me is like, no, we can't go back. Like, we're going, you know, what is the expression? Pedal to the metal?
Yeah.
Pedal to the metal in wrestling. Like, oh.
No, I think that's good. That's a big leap. Like, you know, you're putting that positivity out there. You're making the leap. You don't have your safety net. Like, it's just you in the world. You in the wrestling world. That stable, relaxing wrestling world.
Oh, yeah. All of those great, lovely things. Stable is at the top of the list.
Well balanced. I need to know, what was the training of a piercer like? Because I've been pierced since I was a kid. I used to have tons, but like, it's different in Canada. There's always like more, like, is there like formal training? Is it like a tattoo artist? Like, do you pierce an orange? Like, what do you do?
So it's not like you go to school or anything. You become an apprentice. So you find someone to mentor you. And for me, it kind of started like, all right, I'm going to watch you pierce. And I would kind of like sit in on every piercing that my mentor would do.
Okay.
I would kind of learn the jewelry. I would work with the pieces of jewelry outside of like working on a person. I would clean up all the stations, you know, learn about all the like safety and hygiene stuff, bloodborne pathogens and whatnot.
Ooh.
Yeah, so all the technical stuff. Then like I'd start practicing on my friends, like when my mentor felt like I was prepared, practice on my friends. Have people come in knowing that they were apprentice piercings at like a reduced rate.
Okay.
And then when my mentor felt that like, hey kid, you got this, we're taking the training wheels off, I was just piercer and I just kind of like did it all on my own. Yeah.
What was your biggest nightmare client?
Whoa, okay. So there are like two different ways that this can go, because it could be like piercing situation that just like completely like run amok.
Okay.
And that, like, because you know, people get faint and like sometimes people vomit, or like you're dealing with blood a lot. So there's like a lot of just like, oh my God, everything's okay, it's under control. Oh my God, the first time someone fainted on me, I was like, okay, help. Like,
just in your chair, just like, well.
Yeah, so luckily I had like a chair that they were sitting in. I've heard people be like, oh, I got pierced standing up. I was like, where did you do that? That's terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, fortunately I've never like made anyone panic. I've always remained very calm in all piercing situations.
Good.
But I remember one time I pierced a woman's nose. Mm-hmm. And generally there's like not much bleeding, or if there is, like it'll coagulate and like stop bleeding soon enough, or like, you know, okay, cool, 5 minutes, we clean this up, you're good to go.
Yeah.
I sat cleaning blood from this woman's nose from like where I was standing. The sun was still up, and by the time she left my chair, I like watched the sun set. It was like 45 minutes and it was still bleeding. I was like, hey, I think you have a platelet issue.
Oh, no.
I do this all the time, and I've never had anything happen like this before. I was like, just something to consider. You know, maybe go get it checked out. So that was like the scariest thing in terms of me being like, oh, like I did everything right. Like, why is this happening?
Yeah, of course. And you're like, how does this come back on me? Oh, God.
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? Just, like, have her get everything checked out.
Yep.
Make sure she's good. Because it could be, like, a number of things.
Right.
So that was, like, just, like, the most horrified I'd ever been.
Understood.
Yeah. I've been really fortunate where I've never had any instances where, like, parents came in and they were like, you pierced my child without like permission, like, so like, because we're like, get everything notarized, like forms, like this is out of my hands, like make sure consent from everyone, like.
That's a really cool job, actually. I feel like you're a little bit of a therapist. You got to listen to people, and then you see their true colors, because like when the needle comes out, no matter what the facade is, like all of a sudden they're gonna like that true, like, what is it, like inner child comes out.
Yeah I've definitely had people who are like super cool about everything. And then the moment I have the needle in my hand, they're like, wait, and they grab my arm and I'm like, you can't do that. I have a needle an inch from your face. You can't do that. But, oh, yeah, that's not good.
So from like a personal interest, how much does the septum hurt? Because I'm like considering taking out my nose ring and doing the septum.
Honestly, I don't think it's bad.
Okay.
I think it's easier than like a nostril piercing.
Oh.
If I would go to like someone who's a reputable piercer, so they'll know like the right place to pierce.
Of course.
Because there's like a sweet spot where it just like goes in like butter.
Oh.
And then you kind of feel like you got to sneeze a little bit. You might tear up a little bit.
I don't know, girl. With all these COVID tests I've been taking, I feel like I won't feel anything.
You might be like immune to that by now. Just like any sensation up there, gone.
It's gone. Yep. Well, that's good to know. I don't think I'm taking it under consideration.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think you could rock it.
Thanks, girl. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
Do you keep yours in when you wrestle? Like, I've never taken any piercings out, but I do worry about.
I keep mine in. I have a clicker, so it should not come out. But if for whatever reason it got snagged or something, it would just like unhinge.
Ah.
Again, not super pleasant to have it yanked out regardless.
Yes.
But it's a lot
release.
easier than something. Exactly. It's a lot safer than something that would just like tear through my nose. Oh my God, knock on wood.
I will be redirecting all my piercing inquiries to you.
I'll gladly answer them.
Good. Okay. I feel like we could just keep going and going and going. We haven't even scratched the surface. But I like to end every episode with my 10 tailor-made questions. It's a little bit of a speed round, but don't feel rushed in your answers.
Okie dokes.
Okay. Name one beauty product you cannot live without.
Mascara.
Any brand specific or just mascara?
Mascara in general.
Yeah.
You know what? I take it all back. Because I'm thinking about like what are the most important things like if I have a bare face. But like more than anything, I think blush.
Blush. Interesting.
I really like a rosy cheek.
Yeah.
Even if like my eyes kind of look a little washed out. Like I feel like a rosy cheek will just like liven me up a little bit.
The image of health. Yeah. Okay. Good answer. I like it. What is your favorite exercise?
I love lat pull downs. Like back day is just generally, I think naturally my strongest. Okay. So lat pull downs, I'm like, I feel so strong. Yeah.
It's great. So you're a back girl. Like back is like your show off area.
I mean, I got a lot of coverage on everything, you know, a little layer of blubber. But yes, I do love back.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
This is like maybe a weird one. But in most pop music, it's like 4/4, so they're like 4 beats to a measure.
Okay.
I really like to clap on 2 or 4, or like if I'm snapping or tapping along, 2 and 4 like naturally feels right.
Yeah.
When people clap on 1 and 3, it drives me nuts. It's not wrong. Like it's not like they're off beat or anything. They could be on beat, but if they're clapping on 1 and 3, it's just like, oh, I hate it.
What is it? Is it like the just it feels like it's like if you're right-handed you're using your left hand sort of thing?
Yeah, it just like feels very inorganic. It's just like,
really
that's
funny.
so wrong. Yeah, it's weird. And I at the tattoo shop I had a coworker who would do it all the time, and I would just be like,
it's 2
love
and
you,
4.
Danny. Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Oh man, I really have to consider what I do. I'm gonna think about this now.
It's like I feel like 2 and 4 is just like natural for everyone. So
I love it.
Probably what you would clap on.
That's definitely the most unique answer I've had, and I love it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I love that.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Okay, this one I have to think about.
Okay, fine.
Because I answered this recently on an interview, and like I just blurted out the first name that came to mind. I was like, that's not right at all. Maybe Maybe Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum. Interesting. Okay.
Again,
That feels right right now.
It feels right now. Yeah.
Good. Moving on. What is your favorite band or artist?
Paramore.
Paramore.
I have 2 Paramore tattoos, so like, yeah,
Love
absolute
it.
favorite.
Have you seen them live?
I have twice.
And go ahead.
I wish I had seen them even more, but like the 2 times were great.
Were they indoor venues or outdoor venues?
One of each.
One of
them I
each.
saw at like a beach stadium, so it was like an arena, but like outdoors, like no lid.
Yeah.
And the other one was in Manhattan indoors.
Oh, that's very cool. So you've had the broad spectrum.
Exactly. Yes. Got to see
Love
them in
it.
both settings.
Do you have a secret vice, like drinking a glass of wine in the shower?
Ooh. I definitely. I'm not like a regular drinker, but I'm a social drinker, and I may or may not know when to stop. So it doesn't happen like really often, but like when it happens, I'm like, oh, where's my self-control?
You only do it once in a while.
Yeah.
When in Rome. What wrestler has the best entrance music?
Right now, Daniel Bryan's AEW entrance music, like every time I hear it, I just get up and want to dance. So
That's great. I'm so happy he's back.
yeah, and I like. Did I say Daniel Bryan? I meant Bryan Danielson. Excuse me.
You know what? I didn't even hear you because it's reversed so many times. I knew who you're talking about.
Yes, I was like, it's just the brain is so everywhere.
You're doing great. It's fine. What is your drink of choice? Doesn't have to be alcoholic.
Waterloo seltzers. I love the black cherry. That would make my day whenever I have those.
What was your most embarrassing moment in the ring?
Let's see. I've definitely slipped and like fell during my entrance before.
Oh.
But I feel like that can't even be it. Like there's got to be something worse than that.
But if there's not, that's not a bad thing. Like I feel like you'll know. Like
I know, right?
You've had a wardrobe malfunction or like crapped your pants. Like I feel like that would come to the forefront.
I've never crapped my pants. But
we can't do all the things. You can't be an overachiever, you know.
I know. I'm like wondering, I'm like, is there something worse? And I just suppressed the memory entirely. But I guess slipping like on the way to the ring is probably it.
That's a really hard one, I find, because like that sets the tone, and that can be like a really hard mental one to overcome. Or you're the way I think you are, because we're almost birthday twins. You're January 25th. I'm January 26th. You probably think that's the funniest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah, I am. I'm a big goofball. So anytime I do something like that, I'm like, I meant to do that. Of course.
I feel like I have not fallen yet on an entrance, but I'm sure I will. And I feel like I would need help getting up from the humor in it. Just like I fell.
Just like, oh, now my stomach hurts from laughing so much.
Totally. And then I shit myself.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it goes. That was the part right after I slipped that I suppressed. Like, that's how it actually happened.
The slip shit. Yep. They'll get you. Where can our listeners find you on the interwebs? Social media, website?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Willow Wrestles. I'm also on Twitch at that name. I have not had my first stream yet, but it's coming.
Ooh, big release.
Yeah, coming up soon. And willownightingale.com if you wanted to buy some merch.
Beautiful. Okay, last question. Finish this lyric. All that I want is to wake up fine. Tell me that I'm